Hello, my name is Liza Holland, and I am with the Nonpartisan League of Women Voters of Lexington, and I will be your moderator for this forum for the candidates for the Urban County Council at large. Thank you so very much for joining us today. We're going to go over the rules. Again, you're turning cell phones off, and any distractions would be wonderful. So the League of Women Voters is the sponsor for this event, and the forum will be available later by going onto the League website. We have 6 candidates in this election. In order to give the candidates a fair chance to be heard, we have randomly drawn via random.org for the order of opening remarks and questions, and a second time for the order of closing remarks. In this case, we will be hearing first from Miss Lillie Miller-Johnson, then from Dan Wu, then from Chuck Ellinger, then from James Brown, then from Richard Moloney, and finally from Bill Farmer. So with that said, Miss Miller-Johnson, you have 60 seconds to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to this forum. I am Lillie Miller-Johnson. I am a candidate for council at large, and I am honored to represent as a candidate for Fayette County and its residents for this election. And my concerns are affordable housing, police accountability, the overall health of the community and of our community. And I have been a resident of Fayette County since I was 5 years old, but Kentucky all of my life. I have attended Bryan Station Senior and Junior High, the University of Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky University, and I just want to ask that you consider me as the candidate of your choice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Liza and Catherine and League of Women Voters for holding this forum. My name is Dan Wu. I'm a first-generation Chinese-American immigrant. I'm a small business owner, and I've been very active in the community, having lived in Lexington for well over half my life. I'm running this year for council at large because we are a fast-growing city and a fast-changing city. And sometimes these older ideas and perspectives just aren't going to cut it for the way we are changing and growing. We have a lot of issues that we're facing. The two of the biggest are our affordable housing crisis and sort of the future of Lexington's growth. And then the other thing that's on everyone's mind is public safety, and we need to come up with a more collaborative approach to public safety. So I'm here as a first-time candidate for a city that is, I think, genuinely ready for some change and ready for some new ideas and fresh perspectives.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger, you'll go next.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Chuck Ellinger, and I'm running for re-election for council at large. First of all, I want to thank the League for putting this on, because this is a yeoman's job. You're doing many different elections, and we just want to thank you all for all the work that you do. I want to thank all of the people who are watching, because you become a more educated voter and a more educated electorate by doing that. Let me just tell you a little about myself. I grew up here in Lexington. I owned a small business called Rogers Restaurant. I was elected on the council in 2002, took office in 2003. I've served for 16 years on the council. My 3 top priorities are public safety, economic development and jobs, and affordable housing. I look forward to your questions, and I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Liza. Thank you and the League of Women Voters for having us today for this forum. I'm James Brown. I currently serve in the 1st Council District. I've been on council since 2015, serving the residents of North Lexington. I think that has prepared me to represent the entire city. The 1st District is a very special, diverse district, and with a lot of challenges in addressing those issues and some of the issues that are facing our community now, I think I'm well equipped to address those. I'm focused, one of the things I'm very focused on is building relationships. I think it's relationships that help us work through the hard times and to build off of the things that are going well in our community. Lexington is a very special community. I was born and raised here. There's a lot of good things going for it, going for our city, and I think we have to do things to protect what we value and appreciate, but we're also growing and changing. And I think you have to listen and be responsive to address those issues with a growing city like ours. So thank you for having me, and I appreciate your support in November.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. I too want to thank the league for inviting us. I'm Richard Moloney. I'm serving my second term as the council member at large. I was a 7-term council member. I had over 25 years in affordable housing, also worked for the governor and housing building construction. I worked for Jim Gray's CAO. And for the last 8 years, I thought my number one problem when I first came in was opioids. I ended up getting a lawsuit, and we won the lawsuit, and we're going to have money for the next 20 years to educate people. Right now, the biggest problem is public safety, and that's going to be my top priority. And I like to fix hard problems, as you can see, and I hope that y'all elect me, because to me, this is the biggest problem I've ever seen as public safety. So, and I would appreciate your vote, and I want to continue to work to fix these problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your flexibility in having me in an outdoor setting here. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. And I thank the league. I'm asking for your vote in November. I'm a native of Lexington, have a family business here, went to Cassidy Elementary, Morton Junior High School, Henry Clay High School, and University of Kentucky. And I've served our county as 5th District Council member for 20 years. Now I'm asking for your vote to step into the next level of service as an at-large council member. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for working with the technology to be able to be here today. Mr. Wu, you will take this question first. What do you most want to accomplish in the coming 2 to 4 years on council?
I think one of the advantages and privileges of being on as a council at large member is that you have 4 years to work on a lot of the challenges that we have in the city. And I think the biggest challenge in terms of long-term for Lexington is growth, and it's housing. I mean, half of our workers in Lexington right now live outside of the county. Half of our residents are also renters. And that's another issue that I really want to tackle, because as great as it is to try to get everybody into home ownership, which, as we know, is the one of the biggest drivers of generational wealth and stability, we have to really protect a lot of our renters and tenants in the city as well. So I would really like for us to make a lot of inroads in terms of our infill redevelopment, zoning, and building processes, so we can really create some more desperately needed housing here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't understand exactly how you worded it.
Sure. And thanks for the clarification there. This was a one that was submitted by the public. Asked, what do you most want to accomplish in the coming 4 years on council?
Okay, want to most accomplish. Well, I've always been a person about basic services. We need to make sure that we have an exceptional police and fire departments, improve stormwater and sanitary sewers and streets and roads. So basic services has always been my top priority. I'm kind of the nuts and bolts kind of person. I think that's what you have to do. But I want to make sure we are in a crisis right now with public safety. We need to make sure in public safety that we are getting officers, because right now we're down 115 officers right now. We need to retain our officers, and we need to make sure that we provide the jobs that people want here in this community, because our budget is based on the 80% of the payroll and net profit. So we need to make sure if we want to provide the services our community wants, we have to provide the jobs. And I guess last and something that's really become an issue here in the last few years, especially in the pandemic, is affordable housing. So those are the three things I've always talked about, and those are the three things that I'll continue to work on and my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Liza. Some of the things I look forward to working on in the next few years are policies, period. A lot of policies focused on our land use, which I think ties directly into housing affordability and things that we can do to prevent displacement. And then also policies, land use policies could also impact us in our economic development going forward. I think creating a community that gives opportunities for people to live and work in Lexington, I think is important. And then also focusing on our public safety. I think we do have some challenges right now, and I think there's some policies that we can continue to look at to make sure that we retain and keep our public safety officers in all departments, and then empower residents of our community to do everything they can to keep their neighborhoods safe. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. Number one priority would be public safety. And I've got a couple ideas. One, we need to hire, we've got officers that want to come back, but cannot come back because in the collective bargain, if you retire, you can't come back. There's about 10 of them that want to come back. I think that would put a help into what we need. The second, corrections. We're way short on correcting. 911, I went out there solid. We got people waiting over 5 minutes on call waiting. We got to fix those problems. Those are the top of the issue. Second thing, affordable housing. That's my expertise. That's what I bring to the table. I have got to be creative, think out of the box, how to make these housing work with Section 8, make them become homeowners, which I did before. We've got to think out of the box and also make sure we have the land and for the future of Lexington with those 2 hospitals out there on the interstate. We need to build out the interstate and be able to pay affordable housing. And that's what I see the most important issue for the next 4 years.
Thank you so much. Mr. Farmer.
Hello again. Thank you very much. I think to sum it up in brevity in a minute's time, it would be what I would call a legislative public safety package, because we're going to have to look at our policing, how well those people are incented, how to keep them, how to make them better. We need to make sure that our corrections folks and our E911 folks also have the tools that they need. And as you step back from all that, others will come into the fore, like our fire service. All those folks step out on the line themselves too. But certainly right now, at the top for each one of us is public safety. We want people to, again, view Lexington as a safe city that it still is. We have some bad actors. We have some situations we have to take care of. And like other things, you have to concentrate on that. And that's what I intend to do with the public safety package I would present to the council, the new council, and ask them to act upon. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Miller-Johnson.
In the next 4 years, I want to address public safety. I was at the public safety meeting downtown, and I've attended all the meetings that the mayor has set up so that people can be informed and so that I can be there to answer questions. And I do have several ideas and packages. We also have they're talking about affordable housing with the price of lumber going up and other issues. I have creative ideas on affordable housing, and new ways to build and to do those things. I also when I said public safety and the police accountability, we need to have our policemen trained to deal with mental and sick people that are mentally unable to deal, and this is because of the lady that killed her own children. There were factors that somebody saw something and they didn't, see it right way. And the police were called in and they didn't look at it the right way. So we're talking, that is public safety and dealing with people. And I'm pretty good at dealing with people and looking for the real issues. They confide in me and I trust that they will trust me. And on November the 8th, and 'th, and, 'th, and 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 'th
Mr. Ellinger, we'll let you take this one first. I know we're right in the middle of the next comprehensive plan, but the 2008 comprehensive plan encourages infill and redevelopment as Lexington's main growth strategy. What specific implementation aspects of the comprehensive plan are working, and what challenges still need to be addressed?
Well, fortunately, in our community, in 1958, we're the first community that actually did an urban service boundary. And that was great because we are the horse capital of the world and it gives us our identity. Every 5 years, we do a comprehensive plan, which we look in 2018, we decided not to grow out, but grow up. So we looked at infill and redevelopment as our main focus here. But as we grow, and as I said earlier, when you look at a community, we want to be responsibly grow, because in order to provide the services, we need people, we need jobs here. So we need to make sure that we do grow in a responsible way. And in that 2018, they put in, and theme 8 goal 4 was a sustainable growth. And in that, it was going to look at how would we go going forward. What is suitable? We have to look at, like I said, the responsible way of growing. And right now, there's a goal 4 that is going through right now to look at our expansion process, our goal management plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown.
Hey, Ms. Liza, can you repeat the question?
Certainly. Lexington's 2018 comprehensive plan encourages infill and redevelopment as Lexington's main growth strategy. What specific implementation aspects of the comprehensive plan are working, and what challenges still need to be addressed?
All right, Liza. All right, Ms. Liza, thank you for the question. I think what's working is the infield redevelopment portion of it. I think it continues to make our community be creative and thoughtful about how we develop in the urban service boundary area. The challenges are the same thing that's working, I think, is the infill and redevelopment. I think that being our only growth strategy continues to put pressure on neighborhoods. So I support the new process that's currently being thought up about how we develop going forward. I think there's opportunities to look around the interstate and some areas around our corridor that may present some opportunities once we identify what needs that we need to address in regards to how we grow. So I think the current plan has some pros and cons, but I think as we continue to think about our community and what the needs are, I think there's going to be opportunities to look outside of that to give us other options. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
There are some things working and there's some things that are not working. The infield redevelopment, I've been on the council, we've had a lot of things that come to it, and everybody usually support what the comprehensive, what the planning staff, but neighborhoods have come in here and said anywhere but my backyard. So that problem is just, also, they have not helped affordable housing. This is the worst I've ever seen for affordable housing. This is where we may have to look at expanding the boundaries and be more creative. And like land that we got out there, we can take 10% of 1,000 acres and make it mandatory for affordable housing. And it would always be as a land trust. We got to start thinking out of the box. This is not working. The infield, my heart goes out for people for affordable housing. There is no such thing as affordable housing because I did it for 20 years. There is none. So there is some problems and it's got to be fixed. But we can fix it if we think out of the box. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you for the question. Probably at the end, you'll wish I'd answered it. I think that the comprehensive plan updates that come around every 5 years merely and only keep us chasing our tail. I think if we really want to plan for Lexington, we need to sit back as a community and decide where do we want to be in 40 years and how do we get there, rather than every 5 years re-encapsulating, restudying, and redoing, reimagining what we already imagined. Lexington needs to know where it needs to be in 40 years' time. Where will those neighborhoods be? How will they be sewered? And what will make them livable? Every 5 years, when we step back and have a moderate discussion about what's good or what's right, and the buzzwords have all been used here. We've taught infill, redevelopment, sustainability. Let's talk about where people are going to have new neighborhoods. Where will they live? And how will that create community for the city of Lexington? Every 5 years is a great increment, but let's know where we're going to go. Let's plan to get there and let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
I have not seen the new comprehensive plan. I do attend the meetings off and on, and I want to thank you, Liza, for this question. With the infill and everything else, with the price of building going up, and that is a real issue. How are we? You're talking about affordable housing and living. And there were some things put out there about a truck going around in the neighborhoods, and that is a definite, I understood. But when you talk about housing, if you pay housing and can't afford food, where does that leave you? Again, I agree that there should be a plan for not just 5 years, but 10 years or 20 years ahead. And that's how we've gotten so many things done in Lexington. We plan ahead, or we should be, and not just 5 years, but because we have students. And thank you.
Those 60 seconds go fast. I totally respect that. Mr. Wu.
I think the comprehensive plan is great, but the comprehensive plan is a guide, and the problems that we're having in the city right now are due to the implementation of it. We can say all day long that we want to do infill redevelopment, and I think we do, and I think the people of Lexington do. The problem is that we're running against the actual processes. I've talked to a bunch of developers who are trying to create the missing middle housing that we desperately need here, and they're running into delays and cost overruns when it comes to zoning and building. And so as a small business owner, for me, if it doesn't pencil out, it doesn't pencil out, and I got to go do something else. So we have to put our money where our mouth is and really kind of take a look at our processes, our regulations, and create a more streamlined way to do things. And one other thing is we have to create a better process between neighborhoods and developers so that it's not just intrinsically antagonistic. It has to be more collaborative.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown, you will take this question first, and it's a little bit of a follow-up on our topic. The debate surrounding the Lexington Soccer Club's proposed youth fields in Newtown Pike presented an interesting case of balancing new development versus protecting current business interests and agricultural areas. Where do you stand on that situation? And generally, what is your stance on expansion and development versus protecting current interests?
I think so. I think the question is, you know, what is that development? Is that economic development? Where are we going to put it? And how is the context of that development going to affect the surrounding land uses around it? You know, as we continue to grow, we're going to have these issues come up where developments are going to be proposed, where existing businesses, where existing land uses exist. I think we have to put all of that into context and see what's best for our community as we move forward. If it's economic development and it provides jobs and the use is passive to the extent that it's not going to disturb the existing uses, then it's something that we need to consider. But if it's something that if the development or the plan is something that's going to be disruptive and out of context with what's surrounding it or where it's proposed, I think we have to look at that and make a decision on that going forward. So I think we have to look at each proposal and development on its own merits and make decisions on those going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Moloney.
I think the question is, do we support the soccer field? I did. I think it was an economic drive. I think it would have brought revenue here. I've been pushing for a sports complex. Soccer moms have been begging me, and as I go through, they're tired of going traveling all over the country to play soccer when they can play home. Speaking about the boundaries, the interstate is where we got to build. And if you look at those two hospitals out there, that's the future of Eastern Kentucky. We have a chance to build good zoning on the interstate right there on 64 going to Clark County. And to me, you put them two together, that's our future for the next 25, 30 years. And the good thing is, think if Nicholsville Road had an interstate, how traffic would go through a lot easier. We have a tool out there we've never had before. We need to utilize that as much as possible. So I support expanding and also the soccer fields.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
You know, one of the things in doing zoning things, and they used to talk to us in council, was about, you know, not discussing a case before the council or talking about it in an out-of-school fashion. But I've got to say, in terms of the interstate and in terms of soccer fields, and in terms of what is Lexington's brand, when you drive up on Lexington, I think you want to drive up onto the agricultural community of which we make our brand, with our blue horse, as I have it right here on my lapel. And to drive up on soccer fields isn't necessarily, I think, the message you want to. I don't want to drive up on Lexington and have it look just like every other place down the road, because we have made our place being the horse capital of the world. And to do that, you need to see some horses out there. You need to understand that this is an agricultural community, and that's why the interstate ran around downtown and not through downtown. In the future, we need to continue to focus on our brand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. The debate surrounding the Lexington Soccer Club's proposed youth fields on Newtown Pike presented an interesting case of balancing new development versus protecting current business interests in agricultural areas. Where do you stand on that situation? And generally, what is your stance on expansion and development versus protecting current interests?
The current what resources?
Well, it's the let's see. I'm sorry, these come in from the public. So, what is your stance on expansion and development versus protecting current interests?
Current interest. Okay, thank you for repeating that. And I want to thank the community for their questions, because that lets us know what their interests are. As far as the soccer field, that was not when they were talking about spending the money that we got for COVID and the millions and millions of dollars. There were several ideas for a track field where people could go and run, where they could have track meets and stuff. And usually we go to the University of Kentucky, because I remember that in high school, because I ran track. And then for the field events and the soccer field is great idea. We just need to look into the possibilities of where it is the best idea. If you're taking the farmland and the horse farms, and of course that bring in billions of dollars, we want to make sure that the soccer field is in a place where it's going to be accessible to everyone that wants to get there. And that's with housing too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
Yeah, I think this particular issue is kind of emblematic of our whole discussion about development. It's about balancing what are the benefits of a new development, not only to the overall economy, but also to the neighbors, to the people affected right next door, and what are the harms, right? So I don't think most people would argue like we should or should not have a soccer stadium or soccer fields or clubs. It's an issue of where do we put them. One of the things I genuinely really love about Lexington is that we do have this amazing urban-rural balance that is missing from so many other cities of comparable size. You go to almost anywhere else, they have metro areas that's just sprawl, 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 you know, and if we had that, if we didn't have the USB, we would have absorbed Winchester and Harrodsburg and Nicholasville and all those other things and have really lost what makes Lexington unique. So I think there's a balance to be had there.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger.
Thank you. As it was mentioned earlier, there is a lawsuit, and I try not to comment when we try to stay out of situations, but I'll try to look at it in a more generic. As I said earlier, we have a brand as being horse capital of the world. We were fortunate back in 1958, as I said, is we made the distinction between the urban and the rural. And actually 1 out of 12 of our business is agriculture. We have a $2.3 billion industry with our agriculture. So it's a big part of our community. Now, I've supported a youth soccer, and the natural occurrence would be where you look at the Highway 6475 coming in there. I look at how many people will go to Indianapolis, go down to E-Town. And I think if we could find the right fit, you have to look at it where they were looking at the stadium is in the ED zone. And now you have to look at that balance between the development and also the existing businesses. And it needs to be in context with that area. So each development needs to be on its own, and that is my time. Thank you.
I forget to say the time.
Yep, gotta be quick. Mr. Moloney, because as you all have stated in your opening remarks, housing is big on everybody's mind, and we've been flooded with questions as that goes. So I'm going to do one more in this area. In addition to continuing allocations to the Affordable Housing Fund, what should be done to increase the availability of affordable housing in Lexington? And should one of those be looking at the rapid expansion of Airbnb type housing?
For me, affordable housing, we've had through the pandemic, it's really severely hurt this city, especially low income families who have been renting, and the city fell behind the 8 ball. We had $20-something million. We didn't get it out in time. And when we did get it out, it was too late because landlords didn't trust the city, and we had people being displaced for homeless. So how we fix this problem is what I did before. We go into neighborhoods where there's vacant lots. We the city, instead of putting liens against the properties and landlords come in and buy them, we, the city, should have the first right. We own the house, and if they want to sell it, we buy it. We end up giving it to our 3 nonprofits to do affordable housing. We then put their houses, people back in affordable housing. I do support the tax credits. I did do tax credits for 15 years. I think, to me, the combination of those, we have to get back and fix some of those problems.
Thank you so much. Mr. Farmer.
Give it to me one more time because it's interwoven with the last 2 questions, please.
Yes, it is, and they do come in multiple formats there, sir.
Yes.
Okay, in addition to continuing allocations to the Affordable Housing Fund, what else should be done to increase the availability of affordable housing in Lexington? And would you comment on if we ought to regulate the proliferation of Airbnb type housing?
Let me take the last part first, because before I left service almost 2 years ago, there was legislation pretty much ready to be finalized, go through committee, and to inspect and license all of these uses, not just for safety for folks, but so we would know what that penetration is into each individual community. And I think that's something that the council could still take up or revamp and put forward fairly quickly. In terms of affordable housing, we just need to concentrate on it the same way we have done so on purchasing development rights. And in doing so, it's not just about adding money to that group, of which I was one of the founding members of that board when it was seated and we started to put money into this. We have to go back and make sure that the deed restrictions last longer so the affordable housing lasts longer. And it's going to take more policy work there than we've done in that area, more commitment to it, because we need to for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
I think we need to think out of the box on this. As said before, affordable housing has been a real problem in latter years and continues to be a problem. And could you please repeat that question?
Sure can. Sure can.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay. Yep. And I'm sorry, I'm looking for questions, and now I've managed to lose that question, huh? Okay, in addition to continuing allocations to the Affordable Housing Fund, what should be done to increase the availability of affordable housing in Lexington? And if you can comment on whether part of that should be regulation of Airbnb type housing.
In fact, I was at a meeting in District 1, and one of the people there on the business with Airbnb. And I understood that the Airbnbs is for people coming in and visiting and, you know, for a short period of time. But I believe that affordable housing, you're talking about vacant lots. And I think those lots should be first offered to individuals in the city, not realtors, not major corporations, but these individual little lots that are set out in communities that are vacant should be offered to for sale to individuals to build housing. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
Just recently, about 5 weeks ago in the paper, there was an article actually that listed Lexington as one of the top 10 Airbnb destinations this fall. And that report also said that in fall of 2021, Airbnb owners made $4.7 million in revenue, and that's in Lexington alone. And so what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up with a city that's going to be amazing for tourists to come in and play in, and for the people who can afford to live here, and a terrible city for all of our service workers, all of our restaurant and hotel workers, all the people who prop up the tourist economy. We do not want a two-tiered city for Lexington. So I'm open to all ideas, including maybe taxing Airbnbs at a higher rate and taking some of those funds and putting it towards affordable housing. And secondly, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund needs its own dedicated revenue source, and $2 million a year is not remotely enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger.
Well, I guess I better start with saying that I have an Airbnb, that I have a duplex, and I live downstairs and I have the Airbnb upstairs. So I think I probably need to say that. So if this does come in front of me, then I would recuse myself because I have a pecuniary interest in there. So I'll stay out of that way. I'll go to the affordable housing part of it. And I'll look at, thankfully, Bill back in 2014, that we actually took this on and we started putting money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which we have put in 24 million, which we've been able to leverage for over 352 million. And we put in another 10 million in the ARPA this time. And one of the things that I think that we have done to help with affordable housing, we started looking at parking restrictions, flow area ratios. And as mentioned earlier, I think one of the things we need to look going forward is if we're going to look at a dedicated fund for affordable housing. I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Farmer, you'll take this question first. Meaningful public participation is vital to a responsive government.
Hey, Liza. I'm sorry, I didn't get to answer the last question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Definitely go for it. Mr. Brown, my apologies.
Oh, no worries. No, I think, I think we are doing some things to address and to help affordable housing. I think some new policies that we can look at is we can incentivize more mixed use developments that will help make some of these housing more affordable. And then I think we can also intensify some uses in residential areas, maybe rezoning some areas to be R2 as opposed to R1. That way they can build duplexes, fourplexes, and some of that missing middle housing, but then also have the option to build single family detached units as well. And then in regards to Airbnbs and short-term rentals, there's pros and cons to both sides of it. Some folks have short-term rentals and it makes it more affordable for them to be able to live in the units. But then we are working on a policy here in Lexington that could hopefully make it beneficial for operators to continue to make Lexington a destination, but to also protect neighborhoods that are concerned about the oversaturation of short-term rental. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, my extreme apologies for having marked that X too soon. Mr. Farmer, now you will take this question next. Meaningful public participation is vital to a responsive local government. What are some innovative approaches that you would advocate for to make government processes more accessible, equitable, and transparent?
You know, the COVID Council has had a really hard time connecting with the public because they've been set apart in a way in and for so many discussions, and then haven't made full value of the ability for the entity that is the council to have a bully pulpit, the ability to have your weekly meetings as well as your committee meetings is a place for people to have and give public discussion more now than ever before. This platform tonight, we didn't have 2 years ago, but there are times and places where this is not the right platform, where you need to be in front of people in not a virtual way, but in a very specific and personal way. And that's something that the council needs to get back to and get back to using the pulpit that they have in the council chamber every Tuesday to reassure the public, to lead the public, and to inspire the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
So what was the question?
Question is meaningful public participation, and what are some innovative approaches that you would advocate for to make government processes more accessible, equitable, and transparent?
Well, I've always advocated for an open door policy. And I do, in 2018, that was one of my suggestions, is have public meetings and have my door open and set up meetings monthly even, if as a representative of that district or the community, I would leave it open for open door, open discussion. And that would be, interaction with each communities, and see that they are where we want them to be, or what needs to be done in their community. And those would be my ideas.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
I think about accessibility a lot. I mean, you think about most of the council meetings and work sessions and committee meetings, they're all on weekdays. And who's able to come to these meetings on weekdays? Usually retired folks or people who have the privilege of having some flexibility. And that locks out a whole bunch of citizens and residents who can't participate in this. So we need to look at council meeting times, make them more convenient for people. We need to get out of the government building more and go to where people are in communities. And we need to provide things like childcare or interpreters for language or ASL. Because if you can't actually speak the same language as the people that you're trying to help and govern and serve, you can't do it effectively. And lastly, I think council members need to be more proactive and get out into their communities instead of being reactive, waiting for problems to arise to solve, but to actually go out into these communities and find out what's actually affecting them and stem these problems before they occur.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger.
We actually asked Civic Lex to look into this, to find easier ways for citizens to participate. And they came back with some suggestions, and I think we're going to try to work on that because obviously having more public input is good for everybody. So one of the big issues that I think we need to really work on is how you have a better system to track our legislative process, because a lot of people don't understand the system, and can, if there's something that they want to know something about, it's not as easy as it should be, and that's one thing. And one of the issues that we did have is a translation issue, and we actually put $200,000 in this budget to help with 5 different languages in this budget for translation issues. And we have tried in the past to try to go out to other areas. We went to UK and tried to do a joint meeting, and we have logistics problems. But I think once again, it's something that we need to look at again and see if that might work.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Liza. I think there's been a lot of focus on transparency and accessibility. I know we're constantly working to try to improve that now, but I think we can always do more. One of the things that I kind of pride myself in, being a first district representative, is being accessible, being out to the community, being out in the community, talking about the issues and getting public input, feedback, and engagement on these issues. You know, as an at-large council member, I would do the same. I mean, I love being out in the community, hearing what people are thinking, what people are saying and feeling about issues, because that's who we're there to represent. So anything that we can do to improve on that, I think we need to. And in regards to council meetings, they're always open and accessible, but I think we can do a better job of explaining the process and how things move through city government. So I think that's definitely something we can continue to work on.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. For the last 8 years, I've been in everybody's district. I've worked with all the council members. I've worked with neighborhood associations, and I will continue to do that. As I learned through that, the area that we need to work with the kids are schools. We got to have a better communication with schools, with our parks, to get the kids activities and listen to what they have to say to keep them, because as you know, we've had a lot of problems with crimes in the last 5 years with kids. That we got to find them more active, and we need to put a bit more communication with the council meetings. We've tried this for many years. We went to other places, and it ended up being a high cost, but I am open to any place. We did move around, and I was open-minded with it, but at that time administration said it was a cost that we couldn't afford, but hopefully with technology, we might be able to afford it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Johnson, you will take this question first. And we again had a flood of different types of questions, but it all came down to this kind of simple one. What are your thoughts about reducing crime in Lexington, particularly violent crime?
What are my thoughts about reducing crime in Lexington, and especially violent crimes? I know this is an issue that they're working on at this particular time, but according to what I've heard, and Chief Weathers has said, they are in a deadlock on what to do about those that issue. I know we have supposed to have policing, but I am concerned that with the new police, we should be saturating certain areas with patrols. And I never thought that I would agree with Colin Powell. He's talking about a police state. We don't need a police state. We need people that are really concerned about their community. We need police that are concerned about human life and what is going on. So again, it comes down to training and information and making sure the communities are informed and not holding people accountable when they turn in somebody, and them not being put in jeopardy. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
The conversation around public safety has been a little bit narrowly focused, and it's all been about the police. And so even if the police were 100% responsible for our public safety issue, they're down 86 staff right now. And 86 is the number because I got that directly from Chief Weathers. What we need is to support the LPD with more wraparound services that deal with things like mental health, public substance use disorder, child welfare, domestic violence, all those other issues, so we can free the police up to do the work that only the LPD can do. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to tackle this issue. And from a larger and longer term point of view, we have to really work on the root problems and causes of crime. And that goes all the way to housing stability, to nutrition, to after school programs, mental health, the whole gamut. So it's not going to be a quick solve, and it's not going to be solved by one agency or group or individual.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ellinger.
Well, first, we do need to make sure that we have enough officers. We can talk about the 86 or the 115, the 29, that's the difference is those are who are in the academy, and those aren't actually sworn. So that number depends on how you want to look at it. Anyway, we need to make sure we have enough police officers. We've had issues downtown, and I was with the police officers on September 10th when there were 4 shootings, 9 people were shot. And this past Saturday night, there was a shooting down at Tandy Park, and we put extra patrol down there, and we had the extra patrol. They caught the person immediately. So that they're having extra police does make a difference. Now, we also have to look at the root causes, and that's where we need to really address that. We got to look at affordable housing. We have to look at our homelessness. We have to look at our welfare, strengthen our welfare, financial insecurity, youth program, job training, substance disorders. Those are in mental health. Those are issues that we also have to address, but we have to make sure we have the police out there protecting us, because if you don't feel safe in your home, you don't feel safe in the street, then we're not doing our job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Liza. So I think, when we talk about community safety, it's 2 things. It's prevention and intervention. I think we got to continue to put resources towards programs that provide mentorship, workforce opportunities for young people that we're seeing commit some of these violent crimes. And then on the side of the police. So I think having a properly staffed police department is important. They're not always focused on prevention and intervention, but I think they do play a role in prevention. One of the main focuses for myself are the neighborhood resource officers. We created some positions in that front, but due to staffing issues, we haven't been able to fill those vacancies. But I think that's a crucial component in regards to our police department and how they address crime in neighborhoods. They actually build relationships and address root causes with community members.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. I'll go back to my last question. I think we need more police officers. That's the number one thing we need. But the second thing, mental issues is a major problem for a lot of these people. And then we got to go back into the schools, and we got a partnership with the schools and get these kids younger. And the other most important thing is give these kids jobs. The jobs are here are not there for them. We've got to create good jobs for them to have something to look forward to. And to me, we have great jobs here at the city. We got tons of jobs, but for some reason, a lot of these kids don't want to work. We've got to find out how we can get back in and get them educated enough to come back to work and keep them out of the guns out of their hands. But to me, it's the mental issue that the police and schools need to come together, and we've got to fix those problems.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
This was your briefest question.
And the most
Correct.
complicated.
And James and Richard both made great points in different areas there. Neighborhood resource officers, people on the beat, people who become part of the neighborhood, so that when things are going differently, we know about it from a different perspective. And yes, the schools, we need to be better partners with the schools for so many reasons, but to inspire young people to find positive ways that the things that we did growing up, you can't do growing up now. Those are totally different kinds of clubs and activities, and we need to find more and do more. But to answer your question specifically, in the short term, it seems like when you read the paper or follow the reports, there are certain areas these activities take place. We need to be very specific to those areas with our resources, and to make sure that we keep people safe in those areas, and then be ready to go to other areas too. But I think I hate to go downtown and have the bright lights on me rather than on the folks that really they need to be on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu, you'll take this question first. The pandemic has had a profound effect on the citizens of Lexington. We've seen increases in mental health issues. We've seen increases in overdoses. It just really seems that our community is suffering. What, from a public government standpoint, do you think we might be able to do to try to help to bring people back?
I think we have to make sure that when we think about any services, any function of local government, that we have to build equity into it. Because if the pandemic showed us anything, it showed us that the people who were suffering the most, who were the least able to handle the chaos and the disruption and the damage of the pandemic, are the people that are already suffering the most from all the various social ills that are on the bottom of every measurable metric. So my notion is always thinking about making Lexington more prosperous and more safe, but not building this sort of two-tiered Lexington where half of Lexington is prosperous and safe and in great stable housing, and the other half isn't. We really have to make sure that equity is not just a buzzword and something that's built into every policy that we pass.
Thank you. Mr. Ellinger.
The pandemic certainly was tough on everybody, but marginalized communities were more affected and impacted. So we tried to help out because we looked at businesses and we put $5 million into helping businesses when we looked at the PPP. And in doing that, I made sure that we had at least 50%. We couldn't give a number, but we asked them to at least do at least 50% for minority communities and women-owned businesses. And we did over that. So I was proud of that. So we need to work with our nonprofits. And in the process, when we did that, in our ESR, we put $3.8 million in this budget with 35 different programs. We also, in the ARPA here, we also worked with our nonprofits and we put $6.3 million into our nonprofits for capital improvement. So we need to work with the nonprofits because those are the ones who handle it. And right now, one of our big issues with the violence has been domestic violence. So we need to work with Greenhouse 17 and other nonprofits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Well, I think Chuck started to hit it on the head first. I think we put a lot of resources in regards to the American Rescue Plan money towards human services. Some in city government and some with partner agencies across the community that provide the needed services that our community needs rebounding from the pandemic. Something else that I think we need to continue to focus on is the community paramedicine program. When you're talking about community safety, the partnership that they have with the fire department, the police department, and social workers is crucial. Now, we have to expand that immediately. I think we got to get more folks into that role to reach more people and address some of the root causes that we're seeing in our community. Another thing I think we can do is we probably need to look at doing a health equity study for our community. And that way we can use that study to actually determine which policies we may need to either create or improve to improve health outcomes for the whole city of Lexington. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. I want to thank a couple of my colleagues that helped me get the lawsuit for the opioid, which we won, and we're starting to get the money this year. Thank God we're getting it before the pandemic. We're getting it now when we need it the most. For the next 18 years, we'll be getting money every year in the millions to help fund the opioid problems. And that's one area we're going and working with paramedicine, what Councilman Brown talked about. The other problem I have, and I want to go back, we have got to get our priorities straight. We've got places in Lexington that have 20% unemployment. And we have spent millions and millions of dollars in certain areas of town that really didn't need it. And just think what $20 million could have done for that community if they had a grocery store and people could come up and feel like we don't have a line going straight downtown. Well, this side doing better than this side. We have got to get our priorities straight to help those people in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
This was about COVID outcomes. Frame it for me again, would you?
This was about the fact that the entire city of Lexington has suffered from the pandemic, that we're seeing much larger reports of mental health crises in youth, in adults, that we have higher levels of overdose. And what the question is asking is what else from a city government perspective can we do to try to bring that back around?
Well, there's no doubt that the effects of COVID and the shutdown we will linger and deal with for years to come. I think that it's unfortunate that the COVID council has had a hard time connecting on some of these things, and has spent a lot of money in the community, has given away a lot of money, but then has also come back and kind of taken away a sense of safety and security, has taken away leaf collection, and is trying to take away public art. And I think if you're going to lead this community, you need to do so from the pulpit of the council chamber, setting the tone for the community on a daily and weekly basis. And that policymaking opportunity has been a little bit left behind. The ability to step in front of the community and set the example and help people in every part of the community has been left behind. I think those are things that, as we get back to basics, we will get back to the opportunity to serve all parts of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly. Throughout COVID, our community has really suffered. There's been much larger incidents of people seeking mental health support. There's been a higher incidence of overdoses through drugs. And what the question is what can we as a city government do to be able to help to bring our community back from that?
I agree with some of the stuff that has been mentioned before, but I would add that at the Heritage Festival, they had a lot of health equity people there. And I saw several tables that dealt with mental health and substance abuse and our elderly, which is very important because even though they're elderly, they are put in a bad situation, they're abused too. And we're talking about domestic violence. It's a really hard situation to get a judge to stand up for a woman, and I don't know why, but you got to have all this proof, and even if you come in with the proof, they still have a hard time going along. And then these agencies need to be funded with and brought into view, because some of the communities don't even know what these organizations are or what they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? Yeah.
Very quickly, or you can
Knowledge is power.
comments.
Knowledge is power, and we need to make sure that people have information about these situations and where they can go and what they can do. And I know that y'all sent out that blue sheet, but some people don't get it. And if we could just make that a constant thing to mail out, and so people will know where to go and what to do and who to call.
Thank you so much. I will put in a short plug for the United Way's 211 call system. They can get you connected with lots of great resources. So, Mr. Ellinger, many citizens in the region lack private transportation and have to rely on accessible, reliable, safe, and affordable public transportation. What measures do you support to meet the needs of a growing population in Lexington and also extending Fayette County into adjacent counties who require public transportation for their jobs, medical care, groceries, and other needs?
Well, I'm an avid cyclist, so if I'm not working, you'll see me on my bike. I'm riding. I'm also on the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which combines both Fayette County and Jessamine County, because we want to try to make a multimodal system here where not everybody does have a car and they need the access to be able to get to work. The LexTran is one of the best opportunities for business for people to get to jobs. So we need to make sure that people have the opportunity to have public transportation. We're presently working on complete streets. So when we look at streets, that they have bike lanes, that they have wide accessible sidewalks, that people can use that. One of the things that we just did was on North Limestone. We went down from 2 lanes to 1 lane. It's called a road diet to make it more safe and to make it more multimodal. That is my time. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Liza. So I think we have to do a lot more. I think we're doing several things. I think we have to change our culture from being a cyclist and a pedestrian tolerant city to one that actually encourages it and protects those folks that use that mode of transportation. I also had the opportunity to serve on MPO, so I know what we're doing in regards to regional transportation and thinking about those things. I know we're looking at a ZOTA that's going to come in a few weeks that's going to reduce parking requirements for new developments. And maybe that's one of the first steps that we have to take is the chicken or the egg. Do we encourage development to be built without making sure that there's a parking spot for every unit and force in a friendly way people to think about other options in regards to transportation? But then as we're growing as a city in regards to jobs, we need to look at ways to make travel better throughout the city.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. I'm on the MPO. I think Lectran is doing a great job. I think we can always do better. And we need to start regional thinking because there's a lot of people work in Madison County, Nicholasville, and all those places. But also, it's been brought many years, trails. I mean, a lot of people wanted to take a trail to Frankfurt and all the way to Louisville. I personally, we're the heart and soul of Eastern Kentucky. With those 2 hospitals being built, and all those people coming from Eastern Kentucky, we've got to find a better way to get transportation to them, especially for those people who were affected by the flood and all that. We've got to start thinking not just regional, but Eastern Kentucky, our heart and soul. And we got to be creative because that is hospitals are going to bring a lot of people from Eastern Kentucky, and that's where the growth is and the jobs are going to be. So we got to figure out how to fix that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to profit from recent lessons, from recent leadership. Before Jim Gray, we really didn't think outside the box. We didn't dream outside the box. We have benefited and continue to benefit from that right now with a brand new convention center, a new town branch trail, town branch commons, town branch park. And I had spoken earlier about how planning, not just in a 5-year increment, but further on out. If you're going to be bold, if you're going to help Lexington be the city for the future, these are all great answers, but the one that underlies all that and is still part of our history is light rail. It's not inexpensive to do, but it's the permanent answer. Light rail connects neighborhoods, light rail connects cities around our area and brings us into a hub type situation that the interurban cars used to do 100 years ago. If we're going to get back to basics, let's get back to a little bit of rail. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
That the issue has been public transportation for people that don't want to drive 2 hours or an hour to work or some other issues. I know that in the larger cities, they have the bus system or like he said, light rail. But the cities that are important, that's Scott County, Winchester, Richmond, and Frankfurt. And those can be connected. They have bus systems, not a large bus system, but if you could get to the, if our bus system could get them to the line, and then the other bus system pick them up. But the thing is most important is what we can afford. Can we afford light rail? Can we afford to bus to these cities that have major employment and deal with the backlash? So, and then I know that they have a major learning center in Midway, which is not even, it's 15 miles from here. and we could do that in the city.
Thank
So
you so much.
we have to look at those issues and see what we can afford and what is the best way to deal with them. And I know when Teresa Isaac was in, she was talking about having underground, like in New York or Washington, D.C., those things in Kentucky, which we are on a fault. We want to look at all of the issues and what damage we're going to do to our community as well.
Thank
So
you so very much, Mr.
I
Wilson.
agree
I
with that.
appreciate it. Wonderful. Mr. Wu.
Yeah, I mean, Lexington is built for cars the way it's designed. It's a car-centric city, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And one of the best ways I think that we can sort of transform the city is with smarter infill redevelopment. If we do it in places where we already have the connectivity, where we have the public transit, where we have places that we can actually bike and walk to, I think you're creating a city that's much more livable, that's much more in the complete streets model. It's healthier, it's cheaper on your wallet, it's better for the environment. But we really need to kind of put our money where our mouth is in terms of our priorities. We need protected bike lanes, not just bike lanes, protected bike lanes. We need more sidewalks in neighborhoods. We need to work more closely with Lextran on all developments. And I'm definitely also for high-speed regional transit and light rail.
Thank you so much. This will be our last question before moving on to closing comments. And Mr. Brown, you will take this first. Something that's in the global and national news a lot is our need to address climate change. And so many governments are working towards greener initiatives. And I would like for you to speak on what your opinions are for green initiatives in Lexington.
So thank you, Liza. A couple of budgets ago, I supported the funding of a new position in city government, and that's a sustainability coordinator. Ms. Jada Griggs was recently hired to perform those duties. I know she's actually dusting off an old plan that was a lot of time and a lot of investment was spent to put it together for Lexington in regards to reducing our carbon footprint. I think city government has the opportunity to be a leader in that. I know there's been decisions made that we continue to support at LFUCG that on the front end is costly, could be more costly than other options. But I think what it does is it sets us up and makes us a leader in the community to do more to make city government more environmentally sustainable going forward. So I'm excited about her work and her progress and looking forward to some of the recommendations that she brings forward so we can look to change city policy and to set goals to make Lexington a greener city. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Thank you. As a commissioner, when I was here, we did work on climate change. One was the CNG. We took our diesel garbage truck and used them CNG, which ends up being cleaner, and we also quieter and also save us money. Where the diesel way up. Also, we were taking our trash to Toyota with Georgetown taking it, and every time Toyota turned on the light, they made electricity. It was using our trash. We got money back. They had pulled out. Now I have gone back and thought of another way of doing it. We have sent out bids to take our trash and make some way of making money and using it and bringing it back so we won't leave it in the ground 1,000 years like we used to. So climate, we have a chance to do that. And we now take all our electric here in Lexington down in the city, and we're saving a lot of money. So climate change has been very important to me, and it will continue to be important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
Our carbon footprint as a community is something that we're all going to have to work on. But in the example of my other answers, it's going to require that the council and the government lead the way. We've done some great things over the past 6 or 7 years in terms of, the little things of putting the putting the solar cells on top of the firehouses, changing out the conduits or the bulbs, and doing certain things to kind of bring the overhead down. Now we're going to step into it with a little bit more policy and a little bit more efficacy to say this is not just about lowering the bill, but about making it carbon neutral. And then once we have done that, we can then potentially turn to the business community and prevail upon them to do the same, because we all have to enter into it as a community. And to do that, we must lead. And we've been doing it kind of quietly. We're just going to have to step up and do it with passion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Johnson.
Okay. Climate change is a really good issue because I do feel like that the use of cars and the emissions that are going in there are part of the problem for climate change, and it's changing our world. And you hear sustainability and you hear about these problems, and they've had dusting off an old plan, but this is new. And without our trees, which is why we plant trees every year, they're one of the ways of cleaning the air and keeping us in a good environment. So I have several ideas, which I mentioned before the primary, and I still feel that we can work in our community with our people and see where they stand. And there's something about parking your car and getting on the bus. So that's another issue that I brought up. Another item. And then I'm pretty sure that some of the stuff that I mentioned in the early part of the year, that it would really change our communities with the bikes, and that is great. Because with a bike lane, sorry, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
I think we can jump back to the last question. If we have more developments and policies that reduce our reliance on cars, that's a huge start. In terms of policymaking, you have carrots and sticks, and I'm kind of a carrot guy whenever possible. I think we need more incentives for private businesses to go green. And I think city government needs to set the example for everybody. Instead of all these little small incremental things, why can't we set a goal of making all city buildings and vehicles carbon neutral by a particular date? And let's set an ambitious date and let's try to hit it. The technology to mitigate environmental impact exists. What doesn't exist often is the political will. And the last thing we have to think about is climate justice. Climate change hurts marginalized communities the most, and we have to make sure that our policies focus in on and help them the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ellinger.
The government needs to be a leader. We need to reduce our carbon footprint. We did add our sustainable coordinator. We did put $4 million into our recycling plant, which we weren't recycling paper, and I know that was a big issue for a lot of people, and we do have that back now. We have a mobile food truck now that we're going to go out here in food deserts and help people with that. We just did our third fire station where we put solar on that. That just happened. We talked about earlier public transportation in Lexington, and we certainly need to try to get people out of cars and get them either walking or either on other multimodal ways. When we look at infill and redevelopment, we want people living on the corridors where you're going to be able to have the infrastructure and have more complete streets, and we definitely need to improve our tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been an informative and really rich discussion, and I appreciate each one of you for contributing here. We're now turning to closing remarks, and we have done a new randomization of who will go first. And we will start with closing remarks, 60 seconds from Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Liza. Thank you. Thank the League of Women Voters for having us today, and thanks our timekeeper, Catherine. Lexington is a special place. I was born and raised in this community. Appreciate all the good things that we have here, and I'm determined and committed to work to address some of the issues that we also have here. I think in order to do that, I think it's going to take strong, determined leadership that is willing to listen, to work well with others, and is not afraid to address the tough issues and the hard topics. But I think the way that we actually get some things done and to move our community forward is by building relationships and working together and looking for common ground and meeting in the middle. I'm excited. I think there's a lot of good candidates out there. There's a lot of people willing to step up and lead. And hopefully I can be one of those people by getting your support this November the 8th. James Brown, Council at Large. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wu.
Thank you. I'm not here to be a politician at all. I'm here to try to make more positive change in Lexington. As an immigrant and as a small business owner, I'm coming with some perspectives that we've never honestly had in city government. I'm also not an ideologue. I don't believe in standing on principle to the detriment of actually getting things done. I'm a pragmatist. I want to work with people to actually get stuff done. This is one of the things I love about our nonpartisan government. I am looking forward to working with two of the folks on this call right now. And I think we need a lot more of public-private partnerships. Government isn't always the answer, and government isn't always the best at doing everything. There are great organizations and nonprofits out there doing the work, and we need to create more partnerships. So vote Dan Wu, November 8th. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ellinger.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank the league, and also I want to thank everybody who has been watching this. And I want to thank the public for giving me the opportunity to be a public servant for the last 16 years. It's been a very good honor, and I really do appreciate it. And one thing you can do is count on me to show up. My record reflects that. For the last 4 years, I have 100% attendance for my committee meetings, for my council meetings, and for my work sessions. I show up and I do the work, and I have shown the leadership and I have the experience to lead for the next 4 years. I'm number 4 on the ballot, and I ask for your vote on November 8th. Here is my card, and there is my little QR code. So, you know, if you'd like to look up and see my website and find out about me, just chuckellinger.com. But I would appreciate one of your votes on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moloney.
Who?
Mr. Moloney.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's okay.
Thank you, the league. This was a great debate. I appreciate it. The next 4 years are going to be very crucial. I mean, with the police and 911 and corrections, I've been fighting for them, and I will continue to fight for them. And I think we got a plan that we can make this work and go back to where we need to get the numbers back up. Secondly, I'm going to work with affordable housing, low income housing, and that's what my expertise come in. I've seen homeless numbers go at unbelievable. Downtown, I want to make downtown where people can come back downtown and want to come downtown, not be afraid of downtown. Third, we're going to bring jobs here that we haven't had jobs in a long time, and we got to bring these jobs and get these folks out there and have a want to work. And that's something I'm going to work hard on. And the last part, I've always pulled for the underdog. I spent 8 years fighting for a church that was fighting against the city and the park that we want. We're going to win that battle. I want to fight for people in the 20% unemployment. So I ask for your vote, Richard Moloney, for council at large in November. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Miller-Johnson.
Thank you, Liz. And I want to thank the timekeeper and the League of Women Voters, because that is really an honor that they have set this up for us. Again, I am Lillie Miller-Johnson. I'm a resident of Fayette County, and I have not been on the council before. And I am a person that will work hard for their community. I have done it in previous years. I haven't been on the council, but I've worked to get community benches here and housing and reach and habitat. I have worked with the Human Rights Commission. I have worked to the EEOC for housing rights and jobs. Community venture deals with jobs and housing. When I talk about the overall health of the community, I am talking about all of the issues: safety, housing, roads, streets. And so on November the 8th, I hope that you remember to vote for me. I'm number 3 on the ballot, and I am the person that is dependable. I go every day. I went to, as a supervisor, I attended every meeting, every training, and every informational. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We appreciate you and all of your fellow candidates here today. And thank you so very much to those of you who have taken the time to become informed voters. Oh,
Bill hasn't finished.
sorry. Go ahead.
I think up till that very moment.
You're gonna speak up a bit.
All right. This has been a campaign for me about providing safe streets to walk on, safe roads to drive on, and safe neighborhoods to live in. Now we're down to the grid of it. It's time for folks to make a decision, to look at our answers, to know who we are, to understand us. I'm asking for one of your 3 votes on November the 8th because of the background and the knowledge and the knowing of this job. Having served this city as council member for 20 years and been a part of the business community for my entire life. Understanding what Lexington is and what Lexington needs is not an acquired taste. It's a very special love. And that's what I bring to this, that passion, that opportunity to plant new ideas, to get back to basics and ask for your vote on November the 8th. Liza, thank you so very much. And the league too. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And keeping me on my toes with these little check marks. I do apologize for that, but absolutely a wonderful discussion here today, and we appreciate it so much. And we thank the viewers for taking the time to become informed voters. It is really critical. If you are interested in league membership, please do visit us at lwvlexington.com, and that's where all of these forums will be posted in addition to our YouTube channel. Please make sure to vote. Make a plan today to vote on November the 8th. And if you're looking for more information on candidates, you can visit us at vote411.org. Thank you again for joining us.